Lovely. Thanks for having me again, Rob. I've met with a lot of you, I think now, probably one or two times. These are probably a little bit sick of listening to me, but thanks for having me back again. We'll take a little bit more of a granular look into the feedback fruit solution. My name is Owen. I'm based over in Holland, as Rob just mentioned. Obviously not from Holland. I'm from Dublin originally, and I've been working for Feedback Fruits now about 2 years. And we were actually only over in in Liverpool for the AI week there a couple of weeks back, which was a really fun talk to do as well. But as I mentioned, today is going to be focused on the Feedback Fruits teaching and learning system. And essentially, who we are and what we do is we help make better teaching easier to organize. So, helping institutions and faculty members implement best pedagogical practice at scale. Looking at implementing pedagogies like authentic assessment, flipped classroom, competency-based assessment, and doing that all directly through the Canvas VLE. Jump over. And just on a macro level, I always like to start a little bit zoomed out, and then we can go down into a more granular level into the solutions live on screen. But just where we fit into the macro and the overarching strategic plan of the University of Liverpool, I think really where the Feedback Fruits teaching and learning system would live is under that objective too. So embracing digital opportunities to develop curriculum. So a lot of things within that flexible learning piece, opening up learning opportunities to more people, personalized learning and engagement, satisfaction, achievement, and also, of course, last but not least, the faculty members and the staff that deal in facilitating these rich pedagogical activities for students and easing their workload as much as possible. And just a little bit of background of our business and where we were founded and where we've come to today. We have over 200 partner institutions worldwide, up to close enough nearly now to 2 million users worldwide, specifically in the UK, working with about 12 Russell Group institutions at this point, mainly in the UK, focused on that feedback and assessment piece because of its prevalence around TEF and other kind of national initiatives that way. So looking at even Liverpool, actually, when I mentioned we were in Liverpool visiting, we have a lovely little pocket of innovation happening there in Liverpool with Liverpool John Moores and Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. So really developing this community of best practice in the UK at this point, and slowly but surely getting more and more institutions on board. Our institution was founded in 2012, so 12 years ago now at this point, around that element of peer feedback as an incubator in TU Delft. And slowly over those 12 years, it's developed into the teaching and learning system that we see today. And the system itself, now again, I know I keep mentioning the word system. Don't worry, don't fret. It's not something that lives external to the VLE that you all use every day. It's deeply embedded within. And we have a range of different solutions. So the teaching and learning system as a whole is made up of 16 different tools and a competency-based assessment platform. And these tools are organized into different solution packages depending on the initiatives of the institution. So today we'll focus on the feedback and assessment solution, which is all the purples over here on the left. And this solution offers the opportunity for institutions to implement pedagogies like authentic assessment, with moments for and opportunities for peer feedback, self-feedback, AI-generated feedback on lower order skills, teacher-led feedback, whether it be on competencies, on skills, whether it be on deliverables, and also the ability to assess each other on multimodal deliverables as well, and the ability to formulate equitable groups as well. We have our collaboration and engagement. This is focused really on collaboration and engagement, both asynchronously and synchronously, helping institutions implement pedagogies like flipped classroom. We might get a moment to take a look at one of the solutions in here, which would be the interactive document, just to give you a little flavor outside of feedback and assessment for the day, if we do have a little bit of time. But as I mentioned, the focus is going to be on our feedback and assessment solutions. We have our competency-based assessment solution, which me and Laura and a couple of others took a look at actually last week, which we won't have time to delve into today, but essentially this is the ability for students to display and track the development of their core competencies over time. It also allows the institution to make data-led decisions on the curriculum with cohort analysis and a really lot of good rich data and analytics within that. Essentially what this is, it is the aggregated data from all rubrics used to assess students with the Feedback Fruits and feedback and assessment solutions. And if there's any interest further in that, we can take another look. As I mentioned, some of us took a moment to take a look at it last week. Also, in terms of FeedbackFruits and the kind of what goes on behind FeedbackFruits, there is an extensive range of analytics available in solution. All FeedbackFruits activities can be templated and shared in libraries, reused and shared over email as well with your faculty members, and also saved into learning journeys as well. So this is really focusing on that course design, stacking individual learning activities into a course module, and the ability to upload them seamlessly into the LMS as well. And just our Instructure partnership as well. So we have a formalized partnership with Instructure, allowing for FeedbackFruits to be purchased on Instructure paper. The real reason why I like to mention this is because of course, the LMS has a little bit of a different objective than what we do in terms of teaching and learning. And they've recognized that. So there is a lot of gaps in their system that they've recognized that we fulfill. And that's where the partnership was born. So just in terms of wondering where the overlap is between the LMS and FeedbackFruits, we have a formalized partnership with Instructure, leading to a lot of co-development and also a really deep integration between the two. And we mentioned that piece from the strategy, saving you guys our time. So of course, the support services from our end, you will have a dedicated partner success manager throughout the whole duration of your FeedbackFruits partnership. They will deal with trainings, workshops, train the trainers, use case definitions, rubric definitions. Also, our partner success team has been regionalised, so looking at that cross-pollination between other UK institutions as well, taking best practice from your partner success manager, who will have and will currently be working with other Russell Group and UK institutions as well. And we have live human support in solution. So that's 24/5 humans working all over the world via our chat service, which we will take a look at in solution in a moment, trying to look at quick troubleshooting for teachers and for students, and hopefully decreasing those IT tickets coming through for the IT team and teams of that nature. And also our integration expertise. So generally, as I mentioned again, with the partnership with Instructure and also with D2L, the integration is deeply embedded, and we look after all of the issues and trouble there as well. And I wanted to spend as much time, I know I only have half an hour, in solution as possible. So I will jump over to that now. I'm just going to stop sharing so I can jump over effectively. Just give me one moment. This one. This one. Share. So just to conceptualize the demo a little bit, we will be jumping from student view to teacher view, and we're going to look at our group formation solution, our interactive document solution, our peer review solution, and our group member evaluation solution really quickly, both in student view and in teacher view. So I will be jumping between two screens, and I'll try and make it as obvious as possible when I'm doing that. And also just here is our authentic assessment learning journey, which is available in our learning design community website page, just again to help you visualize and conceptualize where the demo is going to go. We're going to start with our group formation. We'll have a look at our interactive document, our peer review, and our group member evaluation. And we'll jump straight over. So we've jumped over into a Canvas environment here, and we're in the student perspective. And we're going to start off with our group formation tool. So as you can see, FeedbackFruits is very deeply embedded within Canvas, and FeedbackFruits activities will display as any other Canvas activity or module activity would. And they open within an iframe. So we'll jump into our group formation tool. This is one of our newer tools. We always recommend to go into full screen as well, but we do open in an iframe. This is one of our newer tools, and it was co-developed with the University of Groningen. And essentially, its purpose is to help save time in the formation of groups, and also to create more equitable groups as well. So students will be asked to partake in a survey, and they will be matched into groups depending on what the questions in the survey are, and if they will be matched similarly or differently. So for example, on a really basic level, when can you have team meetings? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You want to match groups similarly to that. Every person that answers, for example, A, B, or C, Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, weekend, will be matched together in groups to help them be as effective and equitable as possible. We also have different examples, for example, working style. Are you going to match them similarly depending on the student's working style? Will it be differently? Also, a very common practice is people coming from different backgrounds. If you want someone from finance, someone from a management background, someone from an economics background, and having them matched as easily as possible into groups and publishing these back into the Canvas gradebook, just to help focus on saving you guys a little bit of time and formation of these groups, and in the hopes that when we do implement group projects as such, and that they are as effective as possible. We'll take a look at that now over in the teacher perspective. And the main difference that you'll see is going to be the analytics that we'll see and the ability to publish the groups. So we have jumped over, we're in the teacher perspective now. The activity opens exactly the same. The core difference is going to be those analytics to see who has completed, and as well the ability to push these groups back into the Canvas group section. So we can configure the groups and we have the ability to publish from here. Unfortunately, of course, this was already conducted because it's a demo environment, but we have the ability to see what groups are formed, where they have been put, why they have been put there based on their answers, and we have the ability to publish them back into the Canvas gradebook. Now into something a little bit more focused on that student success, that collaboration and engagement piece. We'll jump back over into the student perspective, and we're going to have a look at our, sorry, wrong one, at our interactive document solution. Modules, interactive document. Oh, sorry. Always trouble when jumping between two. Now, better. We're going to jump into our interactive document solution now. So again, we're back in the student perspective here. And the purpose for this is for students to have the ability to interact with a piece of course content, a reading in this instance, also possible for video and audio pieces, and have the ability to answer embedded questions, to create discussion threads, to engage in discussion threads with their peers, directly inline annotated with documents in order to increase the collaboration and engagement with course material, but also to improve those feedback literacy skills, and also give the feeling, especially in an asynchronous setting, of being a part of a cohort, for example. As a student, we always have an overview of our instructions, who's in our group. We can always see how far we've progressed through an activity, also what weight of the grade it is. We have a participation grading section in this one, also a reflection step, and we also have an overview always of how far we've come along. As the grade, we also always have a notification as to how much feedback we've received, or if there's been a comment on one of our discussions, or if there's been a reply to one of our discussions or comments or likes, for example. We'll always be notified via the bell up on the top right-hand corner. And live in documents, we always have an overview as to essentially what's going on, if we've answered correctly, where the discussion threads are. We have the ability to like and reply to these discussion threads. We have the ability also to answer multiple choice questions, open questions, as well as for the teacher to implement model answers. We also have the ability to do this in multiple different media formats as well. So we can record audio, we can record screen, and attach a file as well. We also have the ability to have, from the teacher perspective, question blocks or discussion blocks to avoid that passive consumption of course material, to actually require students to engage with a certain section of the material before they progress on. So again, not reading a document passively, scrolling through it just to get the notification that we clicked into it, actually engaging with our peers, answering questions, creating discussion threads, and working towards that formative or summative grade that's been set out in the activity. And on the teacher perspective, very, very similarly on this one, the main difference is going to be that analytics piece, and also some integration of our newer AI solutions as well. So looking at the exact same one, the Friedman, we've integrated AI into this one in order to be able to create question threads and discussion boards as well. The main difference, of course, is the analytics. So looking at that engagement piece, what groups have partaken, have they finished, what their participation is like, an overall overview of the cohort and their interaction with this activity. We can also see their performance against certain questions. Not a particularly good example with a lot of incorrect answers in this one, but what you can do is you can use this information to dictate your live sessions coming up. You understand where you need to focus, what questions the students struggled on. Also looking at improving those live in-session discussions, because students, first of all, have actually read the content at all, and they've actually created some discussion threads and engaged with them already. They might be a little bit happier to voice those in person too. and very, very similar user interface, whether on teacher or whether on student perspective. This difference is we have an overview of all the interaction between, and even as a teacher, we have the ability to get involved in the same way if it's audio, video, screen, or attach a file. And also in terms of that key piece that we mentioned earlier, strategically as well in saving time, looking at creating and fostering that collaboration and discussion. Using AI. So we have integrated AI, generative AI, to generate engaging discussion points and questions. So we've annotated a certain section of the document here, asked our AI bot to help us create an engaging question to be embedded within the document. We've had a suggestion here and we have an example correct answer as well. So we have the ability to implement that very quickly into the solution and have students engage with that as well. We do have a little bit of time as well. And now I'm going to jump over into the core kind of outline of the session around that feedback and assessment piece, looking at two of our most popular solutions, which is our peer review and our group member evaluation solutions. This is the two that most institutions that do partner with us in the UK are using at the moment. So I will jump over into our student perspective first, just to show you this review process. And we're going to go into our peer review. As you can see, as we jump from solution to solution, there is that consistent scaffolded approach. So the user interface is very, very consistent between solutions, hopefully flatten out that adoption curve as much as possible, having students used to interacting with the solutions as quick as possible, also for teachers as well. So in this instance, taking a step back, this is a peer review activity where students will assess each other's deliverables against preset assessment criteria by the faculty member. And in this instance, the main difference between our peer review and our group member evaluation is the deliverable. And the assessment here will be on deliverable, and the group member evaluation is really an assessment on competencies and skills and peers' contribution to the group work as well. Very, very similar user interface. We can see our instructions, our group, we can see our submissions. As you can see here, multimodal submissions as well. So we have examples of essays and also of videos as well uploaded for review. We have our giving feedback section. You might notice in this one that there is scaffolded deadlines on each modular step. So this is something that is possible in the creation of the activity as well. And as a student, we always have an overview of how far we've progressed through our review process as well. So we'll jump into the review and show how that looks. So we are reviewing Practical Burgundy Apple in this instance, which of course is our anonymity setting set on. There is the ability to turn this on or off depending on preference. Generally, we see this in first year students, for example, and tailing off then with students towards the end of their academic careers. But the review process happens simply as this rubric has been selected by a teacher, created in solution by a teacher, and implemented. We have organization, we have level of content. And the main thing and difference where we've integrated AI into this one as well, which we spoke a little bit about a couple of weeks ago, is in our feedback coach. So there is a lot of apprehension in implementing feedback and assessment activities from faculty, especially around where peers are going to be assessing themselves, around making those activities as beneficial as possible. So questioning always students' feedback literacy skills. Students can also be a little bit irked at the fact that they're receiving feedback from peers, especially if it comes through and it's not something that's overly valuable. So we've implemented a couple of different ways to try and help improve those feedback literacy skills in our students. So we are doing our review of level of content here. We're going to mark them as experienced, probably emerging is better for the example. And we'll say your level of content was weak as an example of a piece of feedback. And what will happen is our little feedback coach will give us a little bit of an update as to why this feedback is not constructive. So in order to be more constructive, we need to provide more specific examples or details about the weakness in the content. It didn't seem that you had researched adequately, for example. So this is a little bit more constructive. So well done. We addressed the criteria. We mentioned the weak level of content and adequate research. However, to improve your feedback, you could provide a specific example or suggestion on how the student can improve their research or content level. So again, always giving further iterations to ensure that the feedback comments that students are leaving are actually valuable. Never giving them an example of a piece of feedback that they can just copy and paste, for example. It's always that work in progress to get the students to leave a piece of feedback that the AI bot actually thinks is constructive, that when the student receives it will feel that way also. Also, away from our normal user interface of the review process, we have the ability to also inline annotate with the document as well. So we can have an inline annotation for a certain section of the document. We can attribute that to a certain section of the rubric, and we can leave our feedback comment here, just so the student understands exactly in relation to where you are providing a piece of feedback. And the review process works like that. In this instance, we move on to the next one. We have our beloved Cole, a colleague of mine, his thesis, which is in every single demo environment we've ever had. In this instance, we also have an example of a video, and it works very similarly in the sense that what we can do is we can inline annotate along the timeline of the video against a certain section of the rubric as well. So looking at multimodal assessment here, diversifying assessment as much as possible, giving students the opportunity to submit in multiple different media formats. Very, very similar for audio as well, except there will just be no video, of course. It's simply an audio timeline, for example. And in terms of the teacher perspective for this one, I'm going to jump over into the teacher perspective before the group member evaluation, just because the workflow is very, very similar in terms of the peer review and the group member evaluation. The main difference is going to be the deliverable, of course. And similarly, again, the main difference is going to be in the analytics. Now, with our group member evaluation, there are a couple of added ones that aren't seen elsewhere. For example, our outlier detection, which we'll get to in a moment. But very, very similar workflow in terms of the given reviews. We have an overview at each step, how students are performing in their review process, their review average rating, their self-assessments. We can also have a macro look at the cohort as a whole, looking at how the cohort is scoring against the assessment criteria that we've selected. We can also see how they're doing on their self-assessments, where they're scoring themselves, and how they're feeling about their contribution to their group work so far. We can view the reviews and have an understanding of where the outliers are. For example, we can see our comments. We can get involved as a teacher as well. If, for example, we feel there's a little bit of feedback lacking, or if something needs a little bit of clarification, we can always get involved as a teacher here as well. And the user interface is very similar to that of the students. The main difference, as I mentioned in this one, is of course there's no deliverable in this instance. It's an assessment of contribution to group work. We have a reflection step, and one of the really key ones for our group member evaluation to give faculty members a little bit of insight into group dynamics. We have our outlier detection feature. So this will flag outliers in group work. So we have different tags, for example, underconfident. So this would be somebody that, for example, has scored themselves quite low in their self-assessment, but actually received quite good reviews. Quite good feedback from their peers in their contribution to the group. We have somebody who's overconfident, self-assessed themselves as amazing. However, their group reflection doesn't quite reflect that. We also have someone who's a low performer, so someone that self-assessed themselves quite low, however, was actually who self-assessed themselves quite low and also was assessed quite low by their peers. There's a couple of different ones, like a click, for example, in a bigger group. So if, for example, myself and Thomas, I'll pick it out just because I can see it. Me and you are reviewing each other very well. Yeah, Thomas is great. Thomas says Owen is great. However, Teddy and Emerson didn't quite agree. And it seems as though that we have a little bit of a click formed and we're trying to manipulate the scoring a little bit. There's also the opportunity for, and I'm going to jump into the edit mode in this section as well. And this is where all the drop downs come in, and it's where the learning designers and the faculty members are going to spend a lot of their time in the manipulation of these activities, looking at, for example, which groups we want to select. So these are groups from our group formation tool that we used earlier, for example. These groups will integrate and sync from Canvas every time a teacher logs into the activity. So we can see on the top, last sync from Canvas 3 minutes ago, again, adding to that deep embedding within the Canvas environment. We have our assessment criteria. So again, this is looking at how we're going to assess the students. We can see the rubrics, we can see contributions, time management. We have comment criterion, we have scale ratings. We also have an institutional rubric template. So this is where templates can be created, stored, templated, and added into activities at the push of a button. We have the ability to use rubrics. We can make minor edits. We can have required comments for qualitative feedback as well as quantitative scores against the assessment rubric. Really, really flexible and scalable here. weekend done, and we will now be able to see that as a section for students to use in their review process. I will delete it because I'll get in trouble about messing up the demo environments. But this is also true for whole activities as well. So we have the ability to save this workflow with that assessment criteria as a template and implement it intermittently throughout the course. You will have to make some minor edits in terms of scheduling deadlines and selecting which groups take part, for example, but really, really easy to implement intermittently throughout the course. And I think this is one of the biggest things as well for the group member evaluation. Notoriously difficult to score, to offer individualized grades. There's a lot of apprehension and engagement with group projects from students because of this. A lot of free riders, students not putting in their all. We have the ability to implement group contribution factor or group skill factor, which will help us based on the reviews that students give themselves and give others, make a suggested grade adjustment for their part in the group project. So this was developed with Deakin University over in Australia, and we've recently had some updates as well to help manipulate as well how extreme this factor is on either end. This is a little bit complex and going into finer details, but just understanding that the ability is there to offer individualized grading, to have recommended grade adjustments based on the performance and reviews that peers have received from their groups. We can make manual edits in here. For example, we can have individualized grades based on the group contribution factor. We can increase or decrease grades depending on if it's a little bit too harsh, if it's a little bit not too extreme. And once that is finished, again, with that integration into Canvas, we have the ability to publish these grades back into the Canvas gradebook as well. So that's us. That's me. I know it's the whistle stop tour. It's really quick. I'm jumping around. Forgive me if I'm scrolling too fast or missed out on anything. We will be able, of course, I'm happy to take a more granular level look at any point. But yeah, happy to take questions. And yeah, pass on to Dream then when we're done.
Thank you, Owen. I mean, that is absolutely jam-packed with everything under the hood there. So we'll take some questions from the chat, if that's okay. Can you see the chat? Can you see the chat, Owen?
Yes.
So Lisa's the first question, if that's all right.
Yeah. If article extracts are being uploaded for students to comment on, there are copyright implications. Yes. So in that little drop down, Lisa, that not the one little drop down, when I pressed edit and all the little drop downs, there is a drop down feature for the interactive videos, documents, or audio to turn on the copyright so that students can't download it or export it. So that's been thought about as well to ensure the usage of our paid for resources is actually measured. Yeah. So that's possible to stop students downloading it, for example. And in terms of the material that can be uploaded, so we can do, for example, with videos, Panopto links, you can do YouTube links, you can do, if you have a downloaded file, upload it directly for a computer as well. So there's a lot of different options in how you upload material into that activity as well.
Great. And the next one's Jessica.
Yeah, are the student feedback scores normalized by student first? How do you mean, Jessica? If you can jump in.
I'll just wait for that one to come into the chat if Jessica would like to do that, if she's still with us. I was going to ask you something, Owen, about feedback is something that appears quite regularly across our NSS scores and the inconsistency of it. And obviously that's coming from staff. So with the sort of feedback prompter with the AI, tool, is that something that could be integrated for staff as well? I know it might be a sensitive topic, but actually if we can improve our staff feedback literacy, we're going to improve the student experience, aren't we?
Yeah. And unfortunately not is the quick answer. I think we refrain as much as possible. We allow you guys to tell us what you need and not the other way around. It is a little bit sensitive in terms of us telling, for example, teachers and how they deliver feedback. A lot of the challenge with that is actually generally not around the ability or competency to do that. It's generally around time. So looking at student ratios, there's a lot of students to deliver feedback to, and that's why we mention around the diversification of assessment and passing on as much as that burden as possible to the likes of AI feedback on lower order feedback, integrating peer feedback and self-assessments, lessening that workload as much as possible on faculty members, and hopefully giving them that little bit extra time to deliver quality feedback to a smaller amount or with a lesser burden of the requirement on them. There's also a couple of different things in solution, like the example of reusable feedback comments we have in our assignment review on teacher-led feedback activities, also preset template explanation cards, for example. So there is a couple of things to save the workload on that, but I think in terms of that issue also comes from a different place, from competency rather than it's just a challenge in delivering it sometimes. So the implementation of these can help with that too.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. And Jessica's followed up there with the clarification if you want to pick that up.
Oh, wait, one student scores more than the others. Yep, so it's the average rating of all of the scores received. So the screen I showed with the graph with the red section, the orange section, and the green section, and the numbers to manipulate that ratio a little bit. You manipulate the algorithm dependent on how extreme you want the grade recommended adjustments to be. So it's not essentially normalized. However, it's preset from the start, and it takes all students' review averages into consideration. Also, at the end, teacher always has final say on the grade that's passed over. So that's how it works in the instance of the contribution grading, for example. Also, if you've designed the format of the formula as wrong, then it's no use. Essentially, well, not necessarily, no, because the manual adjustments can always be made. The recommended adjustment from the formula is only ever recommended. So the final grade adjustment is going to be based on the teacher's discretion, not necessarily the formulas. Nothing happens automatically. It's simply there as a guide to offer you based on how you've weighted the algorithm.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that, Owen. And just a final sort of question. So how are School of Tropical Medicine, sorry, and John Moore's, using the system? Are they
Yeah.
reporting positive feedback on that?
So they're going through a pilot program at the moment. Both. Funnily enough, actually a really good example, and it's a use case I can send over to you, Rob, to disperse afterwards with that NSS score you mentioned. Feedback and assessment. That's going to be Imperial College London. They have a really good use case that I can send over where they were looking at their feedback and assessment scores in comparison to other Russell Group institutions and implemented group member evaluation. And for that, they use our peer review and group member evaluation for all peer feedback in the institution. So that's a really good example of that. And for LSTM, I believe they have started in the previous month, so still a little bit early. And Liverpool John Moore's also the same. They would have started, I want to believe, on the back end of the summer. So still looking for feedback from there. But a lot of innovation happening in Liverpool, and people are really excited to jump on and have a try.
Brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll circulate a recording of this to everyone here and not here, and I'll include your email address, Owen, if that's okay, because then people can get in touch and talk about next steps and how they might go about a pilot for that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that tour. Thank you to everyone. And so next up, Laura, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Owen. It was really interesting. So yeah, we're delighted to be joined by some colleagues from Dream. So Thomas, Peter, and I can see Jazz is here as well. So thank you for joining us. They're going to be talking about Portflow, which is a sort of integrated assessment tool. So you'll see sort of the theme of the day has been things that integrate seamlessly into Canvas. So I'll hand over to Thomas and team. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Laura. So while Peter gears up his screen here, let me just take a moment to thank everybody for having us here. So both Laura and Rob, to yourselves, to the people that made it here on the Zoom meeting, but of course also anyone that might be watching the recording online. So my name is Thomas. I've been with the UK&I team over here at Portflow Dream for a number of years now. I have to give props to Owen for doing both the presentation and demo by himself. I have brought some reinforcements in here with me today. So we have both Peter, who is our product manager for Portflow, as well as Jazz Kelsey, who is the managing director for UK&I over here. Over the next 25, 30 minutes, we'll take you through where we come from as a company, sort of the vision that Portflow was born out of, and then we'll dive into the tool as well as why institutions across Europe, the UK, and further away have chosen to partner with ourselves. As Rob already mentioned when we started this call, please feel free to use the chat as you've been doing to ask any questions. We'll either take them directly in a moment or we'll follow up on them at the end of the demo. So please feel free to keep it as interactive as possible. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jazz for a quick background into where we come from as a company and how Portflow came to be as a product.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay, and thanks, Laura, for the invite to today as well. Warm welcome to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and hopefully over the next 20-25 minutes, we'll give you some good insights into Portflow. But just in terms of our background, it says on the slide here, our mission is to help learners succeed in a future of lifelong learning. And a large part of this mission is actually intrinsically linked to the fact of us being a strong partner of Instructure over the last 10 years. And through this period, we've actually evolved from offering services specifically around Canvas implementations to Canvas course templates, and becoming that strategic partner to many higher education institutions, not only just in the UK, but further afield across Europe and a little bit more globally as well. But during the recent years as a company, we've evolved from just offering services to custom application development, application management. And now we have 2 proprietary products in EduFrame and Portflow. Today, we're here to specifically focus on Portflow, which is our digital portfolio solution, fostering or at least helping to foster learner agency and help students become career-ready individuals. But before I hand over to Peter, just to set the context and the elements that he's wanting to showcase, I do want to emphasize that through all of our product development, we keep the end users in mind, both those students and academic staff and faculty members top of mind. So we consider that ease of use, that openness through integrations, and some of the main main priorities when we developed and continue to develop Portflow. So hopefully this will stand out as Peter walks you through some of the products and main features as well. And lastly, we often hear student feedback and trends in the industry that students seek the ability to be seamlessly connected. They're able to easily communicate with their peers. They want to be able to collaborate, and importantly, they have the choice to learn and interact on their own terms. So they were those 3 or 4 C's, should I say, that connectedness, communicate, collaboration, and choice, right? So we know that students and even humans of today are crying out for this, and that's just the way technology is taking us as humans. So therefore, hopefully, I'm sure you'll appreciate some of these things that we're about to show you, because they directly link to some of those things that I've just mentioned. But with that said, I'll hand over to Peter, and I hope you enjoy the demonstration we have for you today.
Thank you, Jess, and thank you all for inviting us over this afternoon. So like Thomas said, please do interrupt me at any time or use the chat to shoot any questions at us. So over the time working with the educational partners we've been working with in and around the Netherlands and Europe, we've developed our own pedagogical vision on what we think, in line with what Jess just said, is necessary to prepare our students for career readiness. And we have a 2-faceted approach, consisting of 2 main components. Firstly, a more holistic approach to assessment by centralizing program level competencies and skills or graduate attributes, etc., to help students to make sense of their learning journey, as well as to focus more on formative assessment, separating the marking process from the feedback process, and really leveraging the power and the value of feedback, like you would also be able to do with a FeedbackFruits that we just saw. And next to that, really fostering that learner agency, because we strongly believe that teaching students to take responsibility equips them with a key ability, key requirement to be successful in lifelong learning. So really trying to stimulate their ownership of their learning in the end, to build that skill set for career-ready professionals. So it's not just about competencies, but also about attitudes and your agency as a learner. So that's why we built initially together with a university in the Netherlands, Fontys, a solution tightly integrated with Canvas in the form of a overarching learning experience portfolio. And if you would traditionally look at a portfolio, we would say portfolio is used for showcasing your achievements. But with Portflow, we really focus more on the learning process itself, as well as supporting the assessment of that learning journey. And in the end, offer some showcasing features. I'll get back to that in a minute. But we built this solution on 4 main pillars, being that holistic approach to assessment, starting out with a robust framework of your goals or competencies or outcomes or attributes you're working towards, allowing learners to tie together the entire learning journey while aggregating feedback, artifacts, visualizing their development, and at the same time building that agency of the learners, allowing them to set personal goals, to curate their evidence, to curate their narrative of their learning journey, manage who has access to their learning portfolio, and use it as an alumnus. And of course, we know that acquiring that agency, building that agency is not something that happens overnight. It's something that really requires adequate scaffolding along the route. So therefore, we have tight integrations, of course, not only with Canvas as the VLE, but also with the roles of the involved parties. For example, leveraging templates, the authentic feedback, the reviews and support. And lastly, the deep synergy with Canvas. So we really set out to not compete with any existing features of Canvas, not to create any additional ambiguity for the end users. They will experience Portflow as a fully integrated solution. Also tying together in what we mean with that synergy is that it goes beyond a normal integration, where Canvas is traditionally oriented around courses, your offerings, your modules, where learning and activities can be arranged and organized, and also the learning results can be graded and scored. A lot of the control lies with the institution and the teacher normally. And then integrated with that, we offer Portflow as the learning experience portfolio, oriented around those goals rather than just the offerings, where learners themselves can collect their learning experiences, gather feedback, write reflections, and in the end, justify their competency development with more control offered to the student themselves to really learn to take that ownership of their learning journey, of course, provided with adequate scaffolding from Portflow itself, but also in the combination with the interaction with Canvas. So if we look at Portflow and the workflow, you can imagine these 4 phases of learning, of planning, learning, tracking, and proving. And these are, of course, not that linear in practice, but they help to explore and understand how Portflow ties into the various learning phases. So starting out with planning, you can, depending on the context and needs of your students, decide to let students build their own portfolio from a blank canvas, or allow or help your students to build their portfolio by offering them a structure in the form of a template where you can include your collections, your goals. I will show you in a minute. So let's dive into Portflow. I'll be moving my screen over to the student view within Canvas. And here I can see my normal dashboard within Canvas. And as Portflow is positioned as a overarching learning experience portfolio, we would typically add Portflow to the global domain navigation of Canvas. So I'm currently looking at Canvas as a student, and I can click the Portflow button to go into my own development, my live development portfolio. So this is it. This is my overarching development portfolio, in this case of the student Lucas. So he can use a personal introduction with some images and introduction. You could even see some of his badges already there. And then below that, you can see the basic structure of his live portfolio, which consists of these collections you can see here. And these collections would typically refer to learning contexts. So think of modules, courses, but maybe also projects, internship, extracurricular activities, anything that the student might deem relevant for their portfolio, they can add to their portfolio. So the student can easily add new collections, or import a template that is built by the program coordinator or teacher or someone else, some other faculty, that offers a couple of these collections to be imported and added on top of their current portfolio. And then within each of these collections, the student would typically be able to add goals. And with goals, we mean anything the student is working towards. So think again of these graduate attributes or learning outcomes or competencies. Again, these goals can be added through a template, so you also can scaffold that process, but you can also have the student add their own goals or additional goals to their portfolio. So actually you have two dimensions that you can use to look at the students' progress in their portfolio. Firstly, that's the dimension, the perspective from these learning contexts, which we see here. And secondly, in the progress tab, we have the perspective of the goals, the things they're working towards. So here I have an overview of all the goals that are being used in this portfolio and the student is working on or has been working on or plans to be working on. So if you look at this goal, the marketing goal, I can see some detailed information like in which collections is this student working on this goal, so which learning contexts. What is the status of this goal, short description, maybe some underlying sub-goals. And then also an overview of all the evidence that the student already linked to their portfolio. So that's in basis the learning phase of the student, the planning phase. So you can build your structure of your portfolio and go ahead with your learning experiences in the next phase of learning by collecting evidences, sharing access, and gathering feedback in your portfolio. So going back to the student perspective, into my collections, and then here below, I can open another collection, in this case, the online marketing collection tied to a course from Canvas. And here I can see that I can add new evidence, so I can import assignments from Canvas. Like I said, it's really an overarching idea to not only focus on the individual learning activities, but really trying to get the activities of your entire learning journey. So here I can add any artifacts of my learning journey to my portfolio in any format I would like, including the assignments I've previously submitted into Canvas as well. So I can import a Canvas assignment, which will not only import the product that I submitted in Canvas, but also the feedback that my teacher provided on that product in the SpeedGrader. I can upload files from my computer, from the cloud, add links, free text, images, video, or even badges, and relink existing evidence from other collections in new collections as well. So an example is this marketing plan, originally submitted in Canvas. In this case, it's a PDF file. And I can see here on the right-hand side that this feedback back by my teacher, Amelia, has been imported from the assignment. So I imported this feedback from her combined with my artifact, and then the feedback conversation continued, in this case from a peer student who provided me with some additional feedback and tips on my evidence. And I'm also able to have multiple versions of evidence. So it's really about the iterative learning process itself, allowing to visualize your improvements over time. So in this case, on the right-hand side, we see the feedback dialog. And if you scroll down a bit, we can see this version 1 tag that's applied to these comments, indicating that these comments are applicable to the first iterations of this piece of evidence. And then above that, the newer conversation is more about the second version. And I can go back to any of the previous versions I created and indicate for each of the versions what I have changed in that evidence. In order to get that feedback, get people involved in your learning process. The student can share their portfolio. They can easily invite any other user within Canvas as well as outside of Canvas. So you can also invite anyone in the work field where they do an internship, or even experts at a certain topic that they are interested in, to access their portfolio or specific sections or parts of their portfolio. And you're in full control of what feedback is visible there, for what period the feedback is, so the access is available, etc. And after that, you can even send some directed feedback requests on specific pieces of evidence, on collections, as well as on your progress, really allowing you to bring together your entire learning journey, both from formal and curricular perspectives, as well as from extracurricular activities. Next to that, in the tracking process or the tracking phase, imagine the student has been building their portfolio for a while. The student might wonder how far they are towards their goals, their objectives, and for that purpose, they can initiate so-called progress reviews, providing them, but also their coaches that are following them, with rich insights into their progress. So for that purpose, again, going back to the student's perspective, I can go to the Progress tab, and then below I can initiate a so-called progress review, really intended at providing a formative, more of an informal character, a evaluation of the student's progress towards a couple of these goals. And then I'm able to give it a title, for example, a midterm review. I can do a self-review or invite any of the people who have access to my portfolio, give a short note, for example, pay special attention to my reflection. And this mentioning I'm doing here is usable throughout the entire portfolio, allowing to tie together the different artifacts in notes, in feedback, in comments, etc. Then I can choose whether I want to do it just with narrative feedback or including levels, and select one of the available rubric skills you are able to define as an institution. And then the summary provides you with the last details that are available to you before you send out the invitation. And that then is sent over to all the invitees, and they can use a rubric as well as comments to provide feedback on your progression towards your goals. And that results in these full-on progress review results, like the end of year evaluation. So still maintaining the various perspectives that were involved in this progress review. So peer students, the teacher, maybe the self-review from the student. Really also providing a starting point for conversations with your students on why there might be differences, for example, in the perspectives of various involved parties in your progression. You can see the progress per goal, or the review details per goal or per reviewer as well. And lastly, this data is also fed back into your progress in the goal cards we saw before. So if I go back to my goal overview and go back to my marketing goal, I have a full overview of not only all the feedback that I've received anywhere within my portfolio, whether it's coming from a progress review or specifically tied to a collection or evidence. I can also see, and I can also filter this, of course. I can see a timeline of everything that has happened in my portfolio. And lastly, I can see a growth chart that shows my development over time in my development towards mastering this goal, according again to the various perspectives that were involved over time. So that's basically the tracking process. Also tying back to the teacher perspective. So if I'm going back to the teacher perspective, so here I'm a teacher, I can go to a course within Canvas, and as a teacher, coming into Portflow from the course's perspective, I would land on the so-called coaching dashboard, allowing me to see the students that are enrolled in this course, using that relationship between me as a teacher or me as a coach with these students. And then I can see their activity within Portflow in their own portfolio, or for example, also the comments they placed on portfolios of other students or learners. And I can also see a indication of their progress over time according to their latest self-review scores. So here I can see on these various goals that were imported in the template, how far the student is coming along. And I will only be able to see that progress when the student gave me access to their portfolio. So I can also easily request access to students' portfolios as well. So in the last phase, imagine the student has built their portfolio and needs to prove their capability, their capacity in certain goals, objectives, attributes. The student can create a so-called snapshot that can serve as assessment or showcasing portfolio, which you can then in turn grade in Canvas or any external grading tool as well. So for that purpose, going back to the student view, the student can create a snapshot, which creates a copy of the live development portfolio that serves as a, like I said, snapshot, non-editable copy of the status quo at that moment in time of the selection that the student has made. So in this case, I'll make a selection of everything in my second year, and then I'm able to maybe exclude a specific piece of evidence, include a name and a short plea. So everything from my second year, and then add a short description and save it into my archive. So now in my archive, I have an overview of all the previously created snapshots that I've created. I can go back to any of these previous snapshots, can no longer edit them, but these snapshots are also available for me to pick from whenever I need to submit my portfolio in a course. So if I would go to a course, for example, my professional development course, I can go to an assignment which requires me to submit my portfolio. And here I can choose Portflow and pick any of the created snapshots from my portfolio, which is then available for my teacher to be graded right within the speed grader. So if I go over to the teacher's perspective and go to that course as well, go to the professional development course, and then the assignments, I can see in the speed grader the submitted portfolio, in this case of Lucas, still able to fully browse through their portfolio, view all the feedback, which also can be enriched with attachments, recordings, I just forgot to mention, etc. And then I'm also able to see their progress review details, see the state of affairs of their progress based on the moment in time that snapshot was created. And then I can also use, of course, the rest of the powerful speed grader capabilities like rubrics and other types of enhancements I have available for me within Canvas. So quickly, lastly, going back to the student perspective, I can also, from my archive, create a shareable link or export my portfolio, as well as I'm able to link my alumnus account to keep access to my portfolio after I graduate from the university. So I can link my personal Google, Microsoft, etc. account to Portflow, which allows me to keep building my portfolio, keep creating new snapshots, except for everything that's Canvas related, because I'm not able to access Canvas anymore. So I will be able to not able to import new Canvas assignments, etc., but I'm still able to create new content and share my portfolio with new people. Yeah, I think that's Portflow in a nutshell. So if there are no questions yet, please feel free to add them. Otherwise, I'll be handing it over to Thomas.
All right, thanks for taking us through the demo, Peter. So we wanted to finish off on this last slide because hopefully you've seen with the demo that Peter just did how tight that integration with Canvas really is, going beyond just an LTI integration in the narrow sense, and also how Portflow really ties together that whole learning experience based on goals, graduate attributes, transferable skills. And that's also what we're seeing with a lot of institutions, both in the Netherlands and Belgium, as well as in the UK. So to give you an example of the Netherlands, we do a lot of work with Fontes. So you might have heard Peter mention that was one of the first co-creation partners for Portflow, and they have shifted their entire institution to a portfolio-based development and assessment, so that once a learner enters into the institution as a
Thomas, just pause. I think we were all put on mute accidentally, so we lost you.
Okay.
We only lost you for around about 3 seconds, 3-4 seconds.
Okay, no problem at all. So as I mentioned, Portflow really shifted institution-wide to an assessment and development strategy based on e-portfolios, which from the moment learner starts already makes clear to them, right? These are the skills, competencies, graduate attributes that you'll be developing over the next 3 to 4 years. And while as far as institution-wide implementations go, the Netherlands might be a front runner in some of that, we also see some of those same trends coming back in the UK specifically. So for example, Harriet Wood, a Canvas user similar to yourself, also uses Portflow to track and assess learners' progress on graduate attributes, transferable skills, so that even as they're studying, it's already clear to them what skills they're gaining that they'll then take into the workforce. And of course, I've highlighted 2 examples here. We'll be doing a major announcement soon of some of the first Russell Group University joining the growing user base of Portflow. I won't mention names, but do keep your eyes and ears out for that. And what I really wanted to start off with, barring any questions in the chat about the demo or anything related, is that we do offer pilot opportunities as well. So for anyone either here or watching the recording, do reach out to Laura and Rob, who will then put you in touch directly with us or coordinate that from a more central perspective. Yeah, so with that, let me take a quick look at the chat to see if there are any questions. It doesn't appear so for the moment. Again, feel free to send those in, and otherwise I'll pass it back to Laura.
Thank you so much. I did have a question. I thought I won't type it in the chat. I'll just ask you if that's okay to kick us off. So, and hopefully as well, I know we've got some colleagues here who are big e-portfolio users, so I'd be interested to know kind of your perspective and how it might fit into your workflows. But I was interested to know what sort of feedback you get from students, because obviously that's a big element for us in terms of how they find using the tool. Is it readily adopted? How do they sort of get on with it?
Yeah, great question. Peter, do you want to take this one from a product management perspective? Because I know I take the question myself, but I know you like to talk about this specifically.
Oh, that's not selfish. Of course, if we as a vendor say what our students or what any of our users would say of our product, it's always from our perspective. But what we have heard is overwhelmingly positive from my perspective, in the sense of it's easy to use. It's used throughout various contexts. So from some kind of lower level further education colleges, as well as up to academic research universities, students all finding it useful to see and keep track of their learning experiences, especially when programs decide to use it to bridge and overarch a student's learning journey. So not so much within a specific course, but really giving students the opportunity to keep their artifacts of their learning experiences, and more importantly, the feedback that they've received in courses, taking that with them and providing a more of a holistic view of their progress over time, looking back and maybe helping them reflect on their learning journey as well.
That's great, thank you. That was going to be my other question when you were sort of talking through. I was thinking, how do students take this away? But yeah, when you showed that alumni account, that's fantastic. And what about from the staff perspective? Do they have it, like, is there much of a leap in terms of them learning how to use it? Or again, what sort of feedback have you had from staff?
Also great question. The staff also compared us to other solutions in the market. In the Netherlands, there's another solution that's a bit prevalent, but what they often say is that because we rely so much on the existing workflows within Canvas, so you can keep using your Canvas assignments as you were used to, not adding any more other alternative routes to achieve what you want to than there already are, making it easier to start working with this tool, and you can make a template as complicated or as simple as you like. And we always advise to start with a small batch of your template. So your template, you don't need to think of the entire learning journey of a student and capture that in a try to capture it in a template, because templates are cumulative and modular. So you're really able to just either build a template just for your course, or just for the first few weeks of your semester, or the entire semester. And then based on your insights, your learnings, you can create a new template for the next period that students can then import into their portfolio.
Wonderful.
Peter, the only one piece I would add there, having connected with quite a few of our customers recently, that was really around sometimes just the clarity of where certain tasks need to be conducted. We hear that quite a lot. I see Peter nodding as well, right? So we hear that quite a lot from quite a lot of the kind of academic staff regarding just confusion of sometimes where grading needs to take place. Is it in a solution or is it within the VLE? But as you've seen from the demonstration, it's a lot more clearer for academic staff, and in turn that's a more of a positive experience than for students as well, because academic staff just know exactly what to do, where to do it, and when to do it, and therefore the student benefits from that as well. That's the only one thing I'd add to what Peter mentioned.
Thank you. It looks like we've had a couple of questions in the chat. So I think Rob's is first.
Yeah, I can take the question. In which areas do you see the most requests for platform support from staff? Just considering our own system and Laura's battle supporting specific elements of that. So Peter, this might also be a question that you want to take based on your perspective.
Yeah, so we don't often see a lot of support requests from staff, mainly some feature requests. I'd like to do this, which is very helpful for us to provide insights on the roadmap development. You can actually access and provide insights directly on the roadmap from within the application itself. So that's a low threshold to provide insights and experiences to our product and development team. So yeah, and the few questions that we get are about bugs that we are usually able to fix within short notice. And to answer Faye's question, we do have universities using Portflow for workplace-based assessments in various forms, also teacher training programs, most prevalently, but also some more medical studies like physiotherapy. Not yet students in the NHS workforce at this moment. However, we are also currently building a mobile app allowing students to capture their learning experiences right from within their workspace without the need of bringing a laptop or computer.
there's several developments, so that fits in the context of several developments going into more, workplace-based learning and how we support that. Because of course, to Peter's point, right, our main approach is to integrate everything with Canvas, but imagine you're in a hospital or at your internship, at your placement, right? You do not always have that laptop and your Canvas access readily available. So giving people a way of submitting evidence to a dedicated app is something that we're currently investing in.
As well as the real-time feedback. So we're also making it easier. So currently we already have possibilities to bring in feedback from any other people apart from university employees and students. We have a dedicated portal for externals that allows them to easily provide feedback on one or multiple students in their portfolios, on their evidences, on their learning experiences. And then indeed, we are also making it possible to even ask for real-time feedback that you can either write down yourself and have validated by the person who provided you with the feedback, as well as options to request live feedback on a phone. And indeed, Wi-Fi or even cellular coverage in rural areas can be spotty. So the mobile app will be able to capture your evidence and send it over to your portfolio once you're back online.
Fabulous, thank you. I don't think we've got any more questions. So I suppose, Rob, just a huge thank you from us to Owen, Jazz, Thomas and Peter for joining us today. It's been fantastic, really interesting, and we'll circulate the recording. If anyone who's attended would like to follow up, kind of reach out to Rob and I, and we can sort of make those links as well. Anything to add, Rob?
No, just a big thank you again to the presenters. I apologise for referring to the Netherlands as Holland as well at the beginning. It was just the pressure of starting on time. I know it is the Netherlands and Holland is a region, but thank you for joining us from throughout the Netherlands. And yeah, brilliant event. We'll send the recording and we'll get contact details for you all and circulate that. And be good to catch up again in the future and see where we are and if we can get any pilots on the go. So thank you very much for coming, and to everyone for coming today, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks all. I'll end the recording and the meeting now. So we'll catch up by email, everyone. But thank you very much for that.
Bye-bye.